Welcome to the AmericanNoise Podcast, Episode 7. So what we're going to do here for these next about 12 weeks, 10 in the regular season, 2 postseason, is that we're going to go over each game individually. And to do so, we must start from the very beginning. Game 1 was the Seattle Dragons at the DC Defenders. It was played at Audi Field in front of a standing room only crowd of 17,163 DC defending fans. And probably a couple of them may have been Seattle, but that's the entire way across the country, and yeah, they have the most ticket sales, but that still seems kind of weird that they would travel 3,000 miles, but teams do it for the Super Bowl all the time. Maybe they'll do it for a league opener. But it started with Seattle getting the ball, and what we're going to do is we're going to go over play-by-play, drive-by-drive, look at everything, see how the strategy worked, social media engagement, ratings. Speaking of which, TV ratings for this game was only the second highest of the week, surprisingly. They came in at 3.3 million viewers average. The final part of the game, the last 15 minutes, got a 4 million viewership number. That implies that maybe the viewer numbers started at like 2.9 to 3 million, and they went up to 3.3 for most of the game, and by the end, 4 million people were watching. That's a likely theory. That's just how math works. That's how logic works. And that's a very good sign because usually with any broadcast of any type, ratings will go down for pretty much the entire contest, except maybe the final section, which again happened here. But the way things look, it's almost like ratings, especially considering it was 700,000 more at the end than the average. It seems like ratings started low at the beginning and they rose throughout the entire program. There's probably going to be quarters in a bit that we can look at. We'll see if we can find those and see how that went quarter by quarter, if that's possible. That would be very helpful to look at those 12 quarters for each game. A quarter is in a quarter hour, not a quarter of football. But all in all, a very successful start. The highest broadcast viewership across all 18-49 demos. See that, the second highest. Again, the Fox game on Sunday may have beaten it. It was only behind the golf game by like 50,000 viewers. But Seattle starts with the ball. They're the road. The first kickoff is returned to the Seattle 33. And the offense went 3 and out. They got a quick 5-yard run on 1st and 10, and then the offense completely stalled. Silvers threw an incompletion on 3rd and 4, and a 45-yard punt would commence. Got all the way to DC 16, but then was returned for a few yards by Ramirez. And they would set up shop. And on a 3rd and 11 at the 19, Chris Jones was in the shotgun. Passed it deep left, and he found Rashard Ross. He eventually caught the ball and ran out of bounds, but that was a solid 21-yard gain. Got him all the way to the 40-yard line. And Jones wasn't done yet. They eventually got to the Seattle 43 with a no-huddle shotgun pass by Cardell to Eli Rogers. So they would slowly but surely move down the field for a bit, and then they just completely went ham for a good portion of the game. Let's see here. First down next, they send it out short middle. Only a 3-yard gain. But afterwards, on 2nd and 7, they're at the South 40. They're 40 yards out from the end zone. The first penalty of the league happens, and it's on the defense. A neutral zone infraction. So, that's enforced. Eventually, a 9-yard gain on 1st and 10 takes them all the way to the 21. And the next play, well, not the next play, actually they would try to send up Presley up the middle. Didn't work. So they sent up Jones up the middle. And that time it did work. They got 5 yards. They got into the red zone. Ross would attempt to run, but he'd get knocked out of bounds off the right end for a negative loss of 1 yard. Cardell would sit back in the pocket, throw it again on 2nd and 11 from the shotgun. It was incomplete. He just threw that away. He tried pump 3 on a 3rd and 11 down the short middle of the field. Was broken up by Temple. Temple had a very good game on the defensive side. He was just all over his people. And then finally, After stalling in the red zone, they sent out Rasa, unfortunately not PFT commentator. He would kick a straight and true 34-yarder, and that would be the first points in the XFL. The Dragons' second drive was not quick in time, but it was quick in plays. It only lasted for 7. Actually, technically 6 if you remove the kickoff. It only happened for 6 plays. About solid 3 minutes, 250 or so. They would get the ball at the Seattle 33, their own 33. And would take 3 plays to get their first down of their campaign. Farrow would go from the 41 to the 46 on a 5-yard run. And sitting up from the Seattle 46, 54 yards out, got a 12-yard rush via Kenneth Farrow. And then finally, it only would take him 2 plays to get to the end zone from the DC 42. First and 10 with 5:04 left. Silvers ends up back in the shotgun. Takes a look. Passes deep left all the way for Dantes Bird. Nailed him for a 28-yard game. On the coverage was Desmond Lawrence. He was able to get him out of bounds, but he was not able to stop the completion. And setting up shop from the 14, Silvers would pass it short middle, found Prohl for 14 yards, and that was the first touchdown of the XFL season. And it was 6-3 Seattle. They attempted the first PAT ever was a 1-point try. There was no 3-point tries the entire weekend, unusually. The 1-point try was unsuccessful. So, DC would get the ball back. They're down by 3. There's about 4:19 left in the quarter. And DC would, for the first part of the drive, just slowly churn the yardage. They would get a 4th down conversion, 4th and 1 at their own 40. They send Presley to the right. He gets 4 yards, and he extends the drive. On a 3rd and 10 at the DC 44, Cardell Jones would find Dupre for just enough yardage to extend the drive. In the next play, the final play of the quarter, they got it off just off in time with 1 second left. They would throw a deep 24-yarder. Cardell found Emsberger deep left, and it cut a 22-yard swath across the field, left Seattle only 24 yards needed at the start of the second quarter to find the end zone. But what happened is that it's 3rd and 2 at Seattle 16. Shotgun. Cardell's looking, and he fumbles the football. He does recover his own fumble, actually. Cardell only gets to the 18. They lose 2 yards, and Ross has to set up shop for a 35-yarder. The first kick he made was a 34-yarder. This was a 35-yarder, and he whiffed this. I believe it's to the left. He whiffed it bad. Yeah, he missed this wide left. I remember everybody was like, well, PFT should have been side by then, and they wouldn't later because Rossa would redeem himself. This was also the first of many times when you look back over the history of the game. The over-under line was at 51.5. The total points scored in this game was a total of 50. That field goal would have changed it from the under to over. This is not the first time a scoring play that should have happened didn't happen. And it caused the under to hit instead of the over. The under would hit in 3 out of the 4 games. The over would hit in Houston, thanks to Walker and his 4 touchdowns. But then the under hit massively on the Battlehawks victory and the Guardians victory due to the lack of offense by 3 out of the 4 teams in those games. The Guardians were the only one that really mustered much of anything. And the lines for the second weeks of games have fallen from what was usually a 50 to 53 to a 47, 46 to 50. So they have fallen a bit. Under's probably going to win most of the time again in the next week, unless something crazy happens. But anyways, Seattle takes the ball from the 25. They set up shop. First play, Silvers gets it to Johnson for a solid 18-yarder from the right. And they get a second first down the drive that gets into the DC 48. 3rd and 10. Silvers drops back in the shotgun. Both teams have been using shotgun all game. He goes for Prohl across the middle. It's been a tried and trusted route. Prohl's already caught, I believe, the touchdown pass. Yes, he did. He caught the touchdown pass on the short pass across the middle. He attempts it again, but he went to the well one too many times, and Moore was all over it at the DC 39, 9 yards downfield. He would get up to the 45 before Prowl, the dude that Silver was looking for, got Moore dragged down. So DC's only 55 yards out from the end zone. Instant scoring opportunity chance, some would say. Only half of the field, a little extra change to go for. And they actually almost go 4 and out. They're at their own. They actually do go 3 and out. Because on 4th and 7 at the DC 48, all they did was get a 3-yard run and 2 incomplete passes. Niswander has to punt for DC and gets it all the way to Seattle 16. Prolfer catches it. And Seattle 3 and outs in kind. But on the 3rd and 8 at the Seattle 18, where Farrell only got 1 yard off a Silver's pass, Seattle had unnecessary roughness penalty. Also notably, that person who got it, the offensive lineman, said an F-bomb during the interview. And the dump button guy, dumped everything after the F-bomb, not the F-bomb itself, which made it even more awkward. And this is I believe there were 2 times in this game where a 15-yard flag eventually led to a score indirectly, though this one wasn't much more direct. Miller has to punt in the shadow of his own goalpost. And it is blocked by Campbell. Selston recovers it, and it's a DC touchdown. The first one in their franchise history is a blocked punt with 6:56 left in the half. They go for 2. It is unsuccessful. It is a 9-6 DC lead at this time. So the defense didn't get any rest because it was an instant score by them. But it was only a 3 and out, so they're not incredibly tired. Seattle starts the next drive at 38, looking to redeem themselves. And they 3 and out again. Silvers throws 3 passes. The latter 2 are completed, but only for 4 yards each. And Miller has to punt it again. And he gets it all the way to the DC 10. And DC 3 and outs in kind. They have to punt from their own 19. They get it all the way to the Seattle 40. And Seattle sets up shop again. And they have 2 minutes and 31 seconds. They basically have a 2-minute drill. 2 timeouts and the 2-minute warning stoppage. And on a 3rd and 9 from their own 41, they've only gotten 1 yard in the last 2 plays. Let me see here. Yeah, this play description is incorrect. Come on, XFL Stats. It says incomplete deep left to Bird. It's not incomplete deep left to Bird. They caught it. They got to the DC 44. They would be forced into 4th down territory at the DC 32. They don't want to kick it from there. You can't punt it with these rules. So you go for it. Go for it to DC 42. Silvers finds the short middle route again. That's what he found for both the touchdown and interception, but this time instead of looking for Prohl, he finds Farrow. Gets a solid 10-yard gain out of it. Farrow gets the ball again on a no-huddle shotgun run, and he gets 19 yards straight. So they're at the DC 13 with 26 seconds left, and Silvers gets a short left pass to Williams. And that is the second Seattle touchdown of their franchise history. Trey Williams from A&M, the 5'8"er, snags it. Reynolds gets the 1-point attempt successful. And it is 13-9 Seattle at the half. You would think. Lacayo sets up for the kickoff. And he only kicks it to the DC 21 before it hits the ground and bounces. He kicked it 1 yard too short. Therefore, they get an illegal procedure penalty. And it is enforced all the way to the Seattle 45 With 20 seconds left, Cardell, Pep Hamilton, and the defenders have 45 yards of field to get a touchdown. They only get 8 yards. 3rd and 2, they have to spike the ball to stop the clock at 8 seconds. Rasa gets a chance to redeem himself for the earlier miss. He's 1 and 2. Both of them were around the mid-30s. He sets up shop from the 54 yards out, and he nails it. Nails the 54-yard field goal to make it a 12-11 game, or 13-12 game at the half. 25 points in the half total. And at this point, it's an extremely even game. Seattle was the underdog by 9.5. They've shown that they are a really good team. What's kept DC in the game thus far has been an interception to stop a somewhat burgeoning Seattle drive that had made its way into DC territory. Of course, the blocked punt that's gotten DC its only touchdown thus far. And then the mistake on kickoff that's gotten DC its last-second field goal. You remove the penalty, and of course maybe they could have gotten a score off of the punt return, the drive afterwards, if it hadn't been blocked punt for a touchdown. But indirectly, Seattle has caused 9 out of the 12 defenders' points for 1.5. They're the reason Pep Hamilton and Cardell Jones' team is currently still in this game. And not only that, the defenders get the ball to start the second half. Lakeo kicks off again. He does get to the DC 6, so he doesn't kick it too short. It's returned to the 22 by Ross. And this was a very quick DC drive. On a 3rd and 12 from their own 34 after one first down conversion already, Cardell throws it deep to Eli Rogers, deep left. Gets a 27-yard gain to the Seattle 39. And then Jones throws it deep right for 39 full yards. He basically is throwing this from the paint in the middle of the field all the way to the tight end, Corey Lee. In fact, wait, this isn't the deep right pass. Oh yeah, this is the double flea flicker. So this was the double flea flicker touchdown, where they flip it about 5 different times. Cardell finds Corey Lee, the tight end, deep, and they blow all the coverage. He breaks tackles, he gets in the end zone, and it is a 39-yard score, momentum changer. DC is now up by 6 after the 1-point conversion by a Pumphrey rush. So now it's 19-13 DC. Home crowd's going ecstatic. It only took 3 misses to get the touchdown, and it's a true ball game now. Seattle immediately answers. 3rd play of the drive, 1st and 10 from Seattle 43. Silvers finds Prowl for 57 yards and the 6 points. They do fail the 1-point conversion of their own, but just 4 minutes and 34 seconds into the second half, and both teams have traded touchdowns. And it is a tie game at 19 all. Tie game. After 35 minutes, both teams are back to square one. And DC gets the ball to set up shop once again. And they get a long drive out of this. A long drive as in a lot of clock. As in, they used 4 minutes of clock to go from the 15 to the 31. They went 4 minutes to get 16 yards. Newswire eventually has to punt after a 3rd and 8 incompletion failure. There is a blindside block penalty on Seattle that gets the ball from the 30 to the Seattle 10 by Prowl. So that's not good. Seattle's had a couple of penalties that have really hurt him. Of course, earlier they had the unnecessary roughness that backed up the punter and caused the block punt TD. It will really bite them later. And Seattle starts having to work. And they slowly start working down the field. For all of 3 plays. They 3 and outs as They gained 2 yards, lost a yard, lost a yard. They punt it on a 4th and 10 from their own 10. They only get to the DC 45, and Cardell goes to work on a 4th and 6 from their Seattle 31. Screw punting, screw kicking another long field goal to make a 22-19 lead. Cardell just takes a swipe at Rashad Ross for 31 on a single coverage play down the deep left sideline. They get the 6 points. They do foul the one-point conversion, but they've regained the lead. And with 1:45 left in the third, it is a, let's see here, 25-19 lead. They've got the 6-point lead advantage. They have the 1-possession lead. Seattle starts working. They're at their own 32. In fact, that previous drive where DC scored, that was the bite in the rear penalty. It's 3rd and 8. Let's see. Yeah, the 3rd and 8 where Jones passed incomplete. Let me think. Which one is it? There was a penalty earlier. There was a penalty in the game. I don't see it on my play description list. I didn't record it. But there was a penalty where on one of the previous drives, either the first or second of the third quarter that DC scored on, that it was a 3rd and 8 or 3rd and whatever. It's an incomplete pass or it's complete but it's short. And there's a penalty on Seattle for holding. Automatic first down. That's the drive that eventually led to a DC touchdown. So there was a defensive holding call or whatnot that eventually led to a DC score. That eventually led to the fourth down 31-yard pass. They did the unnecessary roughness that got the blocked punt touchdown, and they missed the kickoff that eventually allowed DC to get a deep 50-yard something field goal at the end of the first half. What they have done is they have given DC basically 15 points. Free. Seattle, in a perfect world, should be up 19-10. They're down 25-19. So they come back from the break. They're looking to tie it up. They eventually get to a 4th and 7 at the DC 37. And you know what? They're going to do what DC did. They do pass it short left instead of deep left. Silvers is looking for Prowl again, who has been his main wideout basically for this entire game. And it is intercepted. This isn't the dagger into the heart, actually. The dagger in the heart comes later. If we put the fumble at the end of the game as throwing dirt on the coffin, then this was the nail in the coffin, or at least the closing of the lid before the nail. Silvers is intercepted for the second time in the game. It's a 69-yard return. Nice. As Brandon Silv celebrates the XFL's first interception touchdown. They eventually have 2 one-point tries. Seattle gets the penalty on the first one. It does not cost them an extra point, as DC eventually doesn't get any points out of the deal. Other than the 6 they've already gained, they do not get any PATs, but they're up by 12. It is a 2-possession game. It is 31-19. The over-under is at 51.5. The underbidders are sweating up a storm. And there is 12:43 left for the over to hit. There is 12:43 for Seattle to mend their fences and come back. They eventually do a long drive from their own 37. And they get all the way down to the 19. They get stopped, 4th and 5. They take a field goal. It goes through. The over's hit. Underbetters are wiping their tears away. It's a 9-point game. It's 1 possession. And there's a penalty on DC. 1st and down from the DC 19. They got a chance to score a touchdown again. Seattle is going to score a touchdown. They get it down. It's 4th and 1. And there's another penalty at the DC 05. They get another set of downs. Or actually, no, it's 4th and 1. The yard line's at the 4. Seattle's at the 5. They need a first down to get to the 4. They get to the 3. They actually only thought they got to the 4.5, and they had to review it. So Seattle gets another lifeline thanks to the Xbox controller guy review. And they're down to the 3. And sending Gardner up the middle. Doesn't work. Silvers prepares to hand it off on 2nd and 3. And this is what had the dirt thrown on the coffin. With 5:20 left in the game, Silvers completely messes up the handoff. Totally. They've lost the fumble. It's recovered by DC. Let's see here. Elijah Qualls, the nose tackle, regains it. And just like that, dagger in the heart. 12-point game. DC has the ball, the 12-point lead, the clock on their side with 5:06 left. And they start running the clock. They do have to punt with 2:33 left. They get it down to the Seattle 27. Myers does a really good return to the 41. Solid 14-yard return. And they start going down the field. They have about 1 minute and 30 seconds left, and they just stall in DC territory. They have the first 10 at the 45, and Silvers takes a sack. You can't take a sack there. The linebacker comes in on the blitz. Jonathan Massaquoi gets the 4-yard sack, 2nd and 14. And then Silvers attempts to pass short right to Reynolds, broken up by Campbell. He tries Reynolds again across the short middle, doesn't work. He tries a short left pass on a 4th-14. Just check down on a 4th and 14 with the game on the line. That's a great idea. It's incomplete anyway to Jeter. Unable to haul it in. And Cardell just kneels on it 3 times. Game over. DC wins 31-19. The under hits at 50 points with 1.5 to spare. Seattle falls to 0-1 with probably the best of the 0-1 performances all week. DC becomes the internet darling of the XFL community. They've won the first game. They're now a good portion of people's favorite teams. Other will be the Roughnecks if you're a casual fan. We'll find out again soon in a bit. And Seattle has to go home against probably the biggest crowd, or what will be the second biggest crowd after St. Louis Week 3 in XFL history. They do get a possibly easy game against a hurting Tampa Bay Vipers team, who also has come off their own loss. Well, DC, they stay at home in Audi Field for the second of their 5 home games, and they go against a pretty strong-looking New York Guardians team. And that's pretty much the review of the first game. In game score, I'm going to grade these by quality of the games as well. This was the best game in Week 1 without a doubt. This was a 9-10 game. The only things that detracted was Seattle made a couple of key penalties that detracted, that helped DC win further. They didn't win it completely fairly. Seattle kind of gifted them to it at some points, the pick 6. The unnecessary roughness penalty that led to the blocked punt. The missed kickoff that led to the field goal at the end of the half and momentum. But good teams win when they need to. And DC is a good team. They won when they needed to. We'll see if Seattle can rebound. We'll see if DC keeps up the streak going. And that was episode 7, the 1.1. This was game 1, season 1, 1.1. We will see you again in a bit for the Wildcats Roughnecks game that went to Fox. And that's about it. See you next time, boys. This was the American Noise podcast hosted by Andrew Stiles. And what was our longest episode so far?